When you go to war against your enemies, Hashem will then give them into your hands, and you will take captive their captives. Discuss this in a moment. So via Rashi cites Chazal, the Midrash, we're not speaking about a war which is an obligatory war, such as to destroy the 7 nations of Canaan, but it's Mechemes Rishus. Mechemes Rishus means it's not obligatory. It's, let's say, for land acquisition, to expand the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael, or as the Gemara tells us in Brochos, where the economic situation of Klal Yisrael reached such a level, they came to David HaMelech and they said to him that there's not enough to go around to be able to support one another. So he says, go to war for land acquisition or for other acquisition to be able to bolster the economic situation. So here the Orach Chaim HaKadosh points out, and he really said this, he alluded to it, in terms of the Chemes Midyan. Hashem had said initially, when you go to destroy Midyan, it should be Nikmas Yisrael b'Midyan, to avenge the vengeance of the Jewish people in Midyan. Because what they had done to us with the Baal Peor, the Jews themselves, became engaged with that idolatry and having relations with non-Jewish women, which caused a plague that 24,000 Jews died. So therefore, Nikvas Yisrael b'Midyan. However, when Moshe Rabbeinu went and told Klal Yisrael they should go to war, he didn't say the vengeance of Yisrael. He said Nikvas Hashem b'Midyan. So the Midrash over this is one thing, but the Orach Chaim HaKadosh explains, we see that battle wasn't a simple battle. That battle, there was only 1,000 members of each Shevet who went to the battle. Pinchas led them into battle. It was a battle, it was a spiritual battle between good and evil. That was that battle. As a result of that, he had said that when you're going to battle, the level of miracle you need, you have to be worthy of that ness. And if you're going to avenge the vengeance that 24,000 of your brothers actually were killed because of them through the plague, that's a personal interest. You have to do it purely l'shem shamayim, for the sake of God, because that what they had done. They had brought idolatry upon you. They wanted to destroy the Am Hashem. That has to be your intent. It's not a personal vengeance. It's not a personal vendetta, but rather you're doing it for the sake of Hashem. He says, when Klal Yisrael goes to battle, here, the amount of miracle you need to be victorious and to have no casualties or a minimal level of casualties, you need a tremendous shmirah. Quotes a pasuk in Koheles, Osa mitzvah lo yeda davaro. One who engages a mitzvah, he will not know any evil. Meaning no evil will befall him. But you have to do that mitzvah in a very special way. So therefore, you have to realize when you're going to war, you're going against your enemies, and you're doing it purely because your enemies, not for any other reason. They're enemies of Hashem, they want to destroy you. And then when you have that level of quality in mind, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you merit that nes, that special shmirah, or that special siyata dishmaya. Hashem will give them over in your hands. V'shivisa shivyo, you'll be able to take them captives. They're captives. I mean, it would have been enough, as Rashi himself, again, cites the Sifri, it says v'shavisa, you will take captives. What's shivyo? It's understood. If you take captives, the captive is taken captive. So Rashi says that what about if among the captives you have members of the 7 nations of Canaan, which they should be annihilated? There's a lav, lo schar kol neshama. You're not permitted to leave any remnant of the 7 nations. But if they're taken captive because they were captive by their captors, then you're permitted to take them. I mean, how do we understand that? If there's a mitzvah to annihilate the 7 nations of Canaan, why, if the captors of your captives, you're permitted to take them? We find that initially we weren't permitted to take the land of the children of Lot. But yet we find the Transjordan side, it says, was Tiro B'Sichon. When Sichon conquered them, that was a cleansing. Once it entered into Sichon's domain, although initially it was part of Ammon, it was part of the Ammonite territory, it became purged, we were permitted to take it. So it could be the same thing. If the Canaanic, who has a certain identity representation, it has to be destroyed. But the moment he's taken captive by his captor, he loses his identity. So therefore, when you take his captor captive, whoever is in his domain is identified as his domain. The person already has shed his identity as a result of that. Therefore, you're permitted to retain him, and you don't have to kill, you don't have to destroy that person for that reason. It would be similar that the land of Ammon was Tiro B'Sichon. Sichon, when he captured that, purged it, because now it identifies as Sichon's. Identically, this person no longer identifies with his tribe, although pedigree-wise, genetically he is. It doesn't make a difference, because we once explained that the reason why there's a mitzvah to annihilate the 7 nations of Canaan, because they have a representation of evil. That evil has to be purged from the world. But that's only when they have that identification. But the moment they're taken captive by captors, that identification is lost. That representation of Ra doesn't exist any longer. Therefore, we take their captors captive, even though among their captives, the captives are from the Shiva Amimim, we don't have to destroy them. We're permitted to allow them to live. That's the understanding. So over here, the Or HaChaim Kodesh says something, we've discussed this in the past, V'Isa Bashivyo. And you will see it when they're already in captivity, Eishi Shifas Torah V'Choshakta. A woman who's beautiful in her appearance, V'Choshakta, and you will desire her. V'Lokat Chol Yisha, and you're permitted to take her as a wife. So the Gemara tells us, even if she's ugly, if you desire, you're permitted to take her. So there's a little bit of a contradiction here. First, the Torah says, if you see a beautiful woman, then it says, even though she's not beautiful, she's ugly, if you desire, you could take her. So let's the Torah say, if you go to battle, you see a woman, and you desire it, take her. What does that Torah have to speak about her beauty, the beauty aspect of her? And he asks even a more profound and fundamental question. I mean, when you go to battles, we just mentioned, you need a very exceptional level of siyata d'shmaya, of divine assistance. You need miracle. The whole concept of taking a non-Jewish woman and having this kind of mindset that you're attracted to a woman who's non-Jewish, even though she's a pagan. And it says, Eishes afil eishes ish, even if she's a married woman, if you desire her, you take her. I mean, this is so contrary. And who goes to battle? We read in last week's parsha. Who goes to battle? Only the person we're talking about who are not concerned about their sins. It's the purest of the pure going to battle. And all of a sudden we talk about you desire the woman. And even if she's ugly. What exactly is going on over here? So over here the Or HaChaim HaKodesh says a number of principles. And he says it's worthwhile if you have the Or HaChaim HaKodesh in your edition. He says, He says to reconcile the text, he has to introduce a number of concepts. Why is God actually commanding us to contaminate ourselves, to be involved with a non-Jewish woman? At a time when you're experiencing the miracle, when you need all the schus, all the merit, at that moment, he tells you to contaminate yourself. He allows you to do an action which is detestable and ugly in the eyes of Hashem. And this is something which normally distances ourselves, that we cannot be attached to him. That the Torah allows us to eat non-kosher when we go to battle. The Rambam says only if you're hungry. So it's a question of pikuach nefesh. They should not be distracted. But here, this action will abominate the person who engages with this shiksa, who's a pagan woman. Rabbi Seinu Omru, the Dibur Torah el Keneged Yitzhara. More tells us in Kedushin that the Torah is speaking to counter the evil inclination. He says just to the contrary, rather than succumbing and being drawn into the clutches of the Yitzhara, we should subdue it and to totally eradicate it from the hearts of the Am Kodosh. When Hashem is leading us into battle, it's to the contrary. We should distance ourselves and separate ourselves from such behavior. So he says he's going to introduce a principle which is based on the Zohar. He says the time that when Adam ate of the tree of knowledge, there were many precious souls were taken captive by the Satan. He did not allow these souls to become attach themselves to the Kedusha, to God. We find the greatest Tanoim, or even prior to that, come from the nations of the world who were initially Gentiles. Rusa Movia Tochiach, Rusa Ami of the grandmother David HaMelech, is the greatest proof. She was one of those precious souls that were taken captive. V'kama Gedolei Olam, Shmai Vavtalion. Shmai Vavtalion, they were the Rabbeim of Hillel and Shammai. They were the Torah seminators in Bovel. Uncleus Ager. Uncleus was the nephew of Nero. Ucheilu Rabos, there are many such as this. Rabbi Akiva came from Gerim. Rabbi Akiva, the greatest of the 10 martyrs, was from converts. Oragal L'chosorev, that's the first principle. That Satan had taken the most precious souls captive. Timsa neshama Torah devuka b'neshama tameo. We find that these pure souls sometimes are attached to a contaminated soul. Ve'koach b'Torah lahatos hatameo lehitiv. And because of its level of attachment to a contaminated soul, it has no control. It cannot choose to pursue acts of purity. And it's actually captive until the time of redemption comes. Rabbi Chanina ben Trajon was one of the 10 martyrs. He was the father of Bruria. He was the father of Rav Meir. Dvuka b'Shchem ben Chamor. That neshama here was attached to the soul of Shchem ben Chamor. Shchem was the one who raped Dinah. He was a prince of Canaan. Karamos, listen to this, and it's alluded. Where do we say Chanina ben Trajon? Shchem says to Dinah when he seduces her, he says, the land is Rachvas Yodayim, it's wide open. Rachvas is Rav Chanina ben Trajon. Ka'omor b'divrei HaMekubolim, cited in the Zohar. So Rabbi Chanin ben Traja's neshama was attached, was taken captive, was embedded in the contaminated soul of Shechem ben Chamor. Umatzilu shanefesh lo oso miful tov b'Chamor b'Shechem, and that soul could not in any way influence Shechem in a positive way. V'yotzoch, and when did it depart? Kishedovak b'Dino motza nefesh mino. Here, when he actually raped Dinah and he seduced her, that's when the neshama was able to attach, because motza minas mino, the soul was attached to a soul of its similar kind. V'nitka babo komro v'tidbak nafshu b'Dina. Tidbak nafshu b'Dina is speaking about the neshama of Rabbi Chanin ben Trajon. V'shama loch klal zeh, he says, and you should keep this principle because it's a very fundamental principle to understand this. V'yesh nefesh kadosha ben aklipo. Among all the nether forces, you find holy souls. Shebemokum shchunoso tita leiv hashocheres besoch lehetiv. V'yal sheno hara chelkara oyem yemam either it'll drive away, it'll remove the impurity, or it'll v'magerim hamesgairim in umos olam me'atzmon. These are the gerim who convert, not through this process you see them in captivity, but rather naturally they come themselves to convert. Karus hamovio chanamo chmosherinu beinenu. The Or Chaim says we find with our own seek gerim shemiatzim bo misgairim. The certain gerim converts, they come on their own. It's not due there in any way somebody goes after them, but rather naturally they come.